So I reviewed Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Season 1 and I wasn't a fan. But a lot of y'all wanted me to keep going anyway, to give the show another shot, a second chance, which is what this season is about. So let's talk about Season 2. I'll try and keep things broad to avoid spoilers in case you are on the fence on whether or not you want to watch it, and this is the season that gets you to start. Just like last season, there's still an emphasis on drama, instead of the card fights themselves, but they do a far better job intertwining card fights within said drama. They show the fights with less skips in between so it's easier to keep track of what's going on, and they use those fights to make points and establish relationships, emotions, or changes within the characters. The cards bring out the real parts of the ones that are playing them, so we can see behind the mask, behind the facade, behind of what the characters want you to see, and see who they truly are. They can also reflect insecurities, like one of the characters has a problem with feeling prideful with their self, so instead they have a lot of pride in one card, and you can see that in how their strategies play out. Because of that, every single card and every single card fight has the potential to feel like it might matter the entire season. The two main themes this season are redemption and betrayal, as I said, second chances. With Donji moving over to Team Daybreak in order to make amends for his past that we learn about throughout the season and the person that he once was. Toya, however, joins Team Blackout. He does it to make up for the damage he did to Team Blackout and their hideout, emotionally and physically, while trying to find out who he truly is on his path to redemption. Suffering the consequences of last season's betrayal from Shinobu and finding your place in a world beyond what your eyes can see, there's a lot more depth, heart, and love to put into the story this season. The main conflict is between Blackout and Daybreak, but it mostly happens behind the scenes as the focus is on character actions and interactions between one another. With that being said, although it still feels a bit rushed by the end, they took the time to let the emotions linger and questions to be asked, just enough that nobody truly feels like a bad guy. Just people in impossible situations that may, yes, have interior motives, but they truly feel like what they are doing is what is best for somebody else, which gets undermined every once in a while, but we'll see how it all comes together within the next season. Not focusing on Yu as much was a huge improvement. He actually felt more realistic due to it, and left questions about his past open for future development, which I was happy about. Instead, the focus is on Toya, Donji, and the leader of Team Daybreak, Miss Minai. With the other members also having short but sweet moments, the show's benefited by keeping the focus on a few key plot lines and keeping the unnecessary humor to a minimum. Another thing that Season 1 struggled with. That being said, although there are a lot of improvements, there's also a lot of reasons that things don't go as well as they could. They bring up a few plot lines that could be extremely important and extremely impactful for the plot, like somebody going out of their way and infiltrating somewhere in order to get information about somebody, but it never comes into fruition. It's never really brought up again until the end, whenever it's not even necessary anymore, and it felt like it was completely pointless because of it. There's a lot they could have done there, a lot of scenes they could have had, a lot of things that could have really made characters' motivations a lot more interesting, but instead it was just a couple throwaway lines that meant absolutely nothing in order to get some characters off the screen that had more screen time last season. There was moments when characters felt like they were flipping up a bit too easily, that they didn't have concrete emotions, concrete personalities, which is something that Yu struggled with a couple times, where last season he was happy-go-lucky like constantly. Even when he was bedridden sick, he was always the more positive one. This season, after everything he went through at the end of last season, he seems more angry, a lot more sad, and whenever they make him go happy-go-lucky again, it doesn't quite feel earned. Yes, it's a bit more realistic because he has more emotions, but there are moments when it feels like it swaps up far too easily and far too quickly, and it doesn't necessarily always make sense for his character. The motivations for Team Daybreak aren't cut and dry. They're not just completely bad, awful people that are burning banners because they want to be oppressive in any way. The leader is trying to do what she thinks is right. She thinks that if she takes out all the teams, then there's nobody to compete against one another and they can all be equal, happy people. Which, there is some semblance of logic in terms of that, but if there's nobody competing against one another, there's not much of a freaking card fight, is there? She wants everybody on equal ground, but if there's no competition and there's nobody being better by going against people better than themselves, it all just doesn't feel right. There's stuff that doesn't necessarily make sense in terms of the idea that she has for Team Daybreak, but that could be explained away by her naivety. It's up to your perception on how you view her. I liked her for like 80% of the season, and then there was other moments that felt like they're pushing her too far to make her unlikable for certain reasons. Again, just to get the plot to go forward, I understand, but if I can point it out and say that it wasn't a necessary shift, maybe you shouldn't have shifted her that way. I know some people would really like it, so again, that one is completely personal opinion. But they did do a lot this season to improve on the problems I had last season, especially when it comes to how it was all written. There wasn't completely pointless moments of people running around cross-dressed just to take up an entire episode, and that is not a character introduction this time either, which again was really goofy last season. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. It didn't make any sense. It didn't do a good job establishing who the character was right off the bat and was a terrible first impression. They did bring the cross-dressing back though. It is here. At least it has a plot element to it, you know? It feels more necessary and there's a reason for it. Somebody just really wants boys to dress up in girls' clothes over there though, that's for sure. Let's see, what else have I not talked about? Just like last season, there's battles in between the card fights. The animation is still good for them, but they're kind of boring, I ain't gonna lie. It's usually just one side charging at the other side, and the duration of how long that charging will be dependent on the emotions. If there's a really good conversation happening and someone's like, I'm going to beat you for the love of card fight, yeah, then it's gonna take longer. But if it's just somebody going, and I'm going to win, then it's going to be shorter. Like, other than that, there's not much of a variety in between. Whenever it comes down to the bigger battles at the later half of the season, that is whenever we're getting something that has a little bit more variety, like swords clashing for a few seconds is all. It's still not much, but it's something that shows that they do care a little bit about the card fighting. But again, that's not the main reason for Cardfight Vanguard Overdress. Card fighting might be in the name, but they're still putting far more emphasis on the character drama. At least this season they've done a lot more intertwining that drama with the card fighting to make it feel like it's meshing better. It's still not perfect, but it's doing a far better job. One of the things that a lot of people agreed with me on is the fact that last season you still didn't know how to play Cardfight Vanguard Overdress by the last episode. That's not something that gets corrected this season. I did tell people that I would let them know if it did. We still don't have an episode where it's like, hey, we're training somebody new. Even though last season was training somebody completely new to Vanguard, we still don't have an episode where we're training somebody new in order to get the audience to know how the card fight works, because again, the emphasis isn't on the card fighting. But now that we're actually getting more in depth and some of the card fights are getting a little bit deeper, they're going to have that, because if they're not going to have it, they're going to continue to turn off new viewers. So next season there needs to be an episode where there has to be somebody training somebody on how to play Cardfight Vanguard. If they want to go any further with the card fighting and actually live up to the card fight name, they have to have it. Because I can't recommend even this season to newcomers. I just can't do it. And that sucks. That really sucks. I'm still not able to understand how last time whenever I wanted to watch a Cardfight Vanguard show that people were like, Overdress is the one you should start with if you know nothing about it. Because it really isn't. It still isn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and I guess I'm gonna watch season 3, because season 2 was quite the improvement, and if they're gonna continue to improve, maybe next time I make one of these season updates I can say, yes, we know how to play Cardfight Vanguard, but I can't say that we learned it in this one. I did go out of my way to learn how to play Cardfight Vanguard outside of watching the show though, so I had a better understanding of it if they decided to improve on the card fight aspect, and I'm glad I did, because they did decide to try to improve on the card fight aspect. So like, congratulations, seriously. I don't know if they listened to feedback of other people or not, but this show actually deserves to be rated better than the original season. I don't know what the original was rated by other people, but I gave it like pretty bad rating. I was a little bit rough on it, people said, but what can I say? I had expectations going in that I was told I was supposed to have, and they failed to deliver. Do I recommend this season to newcomers though? No. Do I recommend it to people that know about Cardfight Vanguard and decided that they needed a new card fight series to watch, but the first season was a big turnoff for them? Yes. I recommend you going through and reading the synopsis for the previous episodes and maybe watching the last few episodes of the last season just so you know what the whole redemption and the betrayal thing that they're talking about and they're going to be trying to work through this season is about. But other than that, I can't recommend you going back and watching the entirety of the last season because it just wasn't very good. The first episode of this season was probably one of the better first episodes that I've seen in a season 2 anime, and that surprises me because at first I thought it was going to just flop, but they did a really good job having that really small cast and having a very good character interaction between two characters. You'll have to experience it yourself. I do recommend you watching season 2, but you do need to know a little bit about season 1 first. But don't go watch season 1. It's really hard to recommend a season outside of recommending an entire show. It's not good enough for me to go, yes, go back and watch the entirety of season 1 because all of it has got us to this moment right here. Yeah, I can't do that. We'll see if I can next season though. If I said anything that informed you in any way, shape, or form, or you want to see that video, make sure to subscribe. And for more news, reviews, and whatever we choose, stay tuned to Nerdsfeed. Have a great day. Thank you.